big welcome to Dr. Michael Greger, whose book, if you were lucky enough to get a copy, it's already sold out. So there's like a huge black market thing going on, and you can flip that book for a profit. I'm just telling you, especially if it's autographed. So we're going to see these books changing hands and moving around. I got an advance copy months ago, and he sent me a PDF version. When you get a PDF, you have no idea how long this thing is going to be. And you just read and read and read, and it says 1%. What's going on? So, but one thing you look forward to on these big books is that you're hoping that the last half is just the references, right? Bad news. There's no references in the book. There's no it's all stuff you got to read. How many references are there?
So 13,000 citations, all online, so it's great because you can click on them. They're hyperlinked. You can download the PDFs yourself.
So tell me about your process. How do you critically review 13,000 papers?
No, that's just the ones we kept. 13,000 are just the ones that were useful, that were compelling, that were practical, that were interesting, that were groundbreaking.
Do you have a staff?
So we have a staff of 22. So it's a nonprofit, 501c3, called nutritionfacts.org. We have 22 folks on staff. It's kind of like Wikipedia, where everything's free. But, you know, we reach so many millions of people that if 1 in 1,000 people kicks in a few bucks, we're like totally fine. And so that's how we can have this massive staff. We just brought on 2 new nutrition PhDs. And so we can just churn through tens of thousands of papers to, you know, read so you don't have to what's in the peer-reviewed medical literature to help make people healthier and live longer.
It's a huge service. And now, I was thinking about it, you reading all these things and doing all this work, and then hearing that you find time to walk 14 miles a day.
No, it's all at the same time. No, I don't have time. Who has time to walk 14 miles? No, but if you're on a treadmill desk, you walk 2-3 miles an hour and you just work and, so you type,
so
you
you're
read.
Just on this treadmill.
You're just on the treadmill. You forget you're even doing it.
So
I highly recommend it.
When I found out this, I called Jamie and Debbie. I said, okay, this is the deal. We're going to have 2 treadmills on stage and we're going to do this whole thing. Jamie said, yeah, Khoi, that's a great idea for 30 seconds. And then and I said, how about 2 little stationary bikes? And we could just...
I would love it. Let's do it.
So about halfway
we
through...
We make people a little seasick because you're going to go like this a little bit, but...
Because sitting is bad.
Sitting is bad. So prolonged sitting for 6 hours or more every day, even if you then go, work out later, is associated with increased all-cause mortality, premature death. We think it's due to the stasis of blood in the lower limbs, impairing endothelial function. Is that a fire alarm?
Sorry. So we're on this sorts of exercise. So
very ineffective fire alarm if it wasn't.
So I try to exercise a lot.
Right.
And I'm trying to and every year I tell my wife, okay, Susan, this is it. This is the year of the big lay. I'm going to get big this year.
Oh,
and she gets very excited. But in addition to my dedicated workout, should I be eating a lot more protein?
Oh, you just need to have sufficient protein, which is 0.8 grams per healthy kilogram body weight. Now, if you're working out a lot, particularly if you're doing kind of endurance exercise, you're getting more calories, but you're still getting the same percentage of protein.
So 0.8
grams per healthy kilogram body weight, so that's 0.36 grams per pound. It's about 100 and for the kind of average height woman, it was 45 grams. For average height man, about 55 grams a day.
So less than half your weight in pounds.
Oh yeah,
way less. That's almost like a third of your weight.
After age 65, I think it's reasonable to go up to 1.0, which is like 0.45.
So like half, roughly
a little less than half.
Half your, because that's such a point of departure. Because I hear so many people who are talking about plant-based diets worry, and they ask, the first question they ask, you probably get this all the time, is where do you get your protein?
Anyone who doesn't know how to get enough protein on a plant-based diet doesn't know beans. Legumes, beans, split peas, chickpeas, and lentils. These are the plant protein superstars. and actually preferable source of protein. That is, in fact, the primary protein source for all the documented blue zones around the world, the areas of exceptional longevity that I talked about this morning.
Because there are other books written out there that say you should have 2 grams per kilogram.
There are people out there saying the Earth is flat.
All right. So,
But the science is actually really quite clear. And so what does the National Academies of Sciences say? Like the most prestigious scientific body in the United States. They determine the RDAs, et cetera. 0.8 grams per kilogram body weight for athletes, for non-athletes, for old people, for young people, periods. Flat.
Because
what does the World Health Organization say? What does EFSA say? Well, I mean, all the world's authorities. Or some rando internet, whatever. I mean, you know.
Because the studies show, right, that even if you eat that much protein, it doesn't just go into bigger muscles.
No, in fact, it can impair your health. I mean, so when we're talking about aging, longevity and protein, less may indeed be more. In fact, one of the anti-aging 8 focused on the book is protein restriction down to recommended levels, because that is a way to boost the pro-longevity hormone FGF21, the way to reduce the activity of the pro-aging hormone, IGF-1, reducing the activity of the motor of aging enzyme, mTOR, on down the list.
Yeah.
I mean, you do that by actually restricting protein intake.
So when you say restricting down to the recommended levels, you're saying restricting because the average American's eating
way too much protein, right? Or you can just swap protein sources from animal to plant protein sources, because it's actually particular amino acids like methionine, like the branch chains that are implicated in the accelerated aging process. So you can eat, by eating legumes, even if you're at the same protein level, you're getting significantly less of those troublesome amino acids.
It's confusing for folks, right? And the other confusing thing with protein is people read about quality and the high quality protein. High quality protein sounds like it's better than low quality protein, but that's not really the way to think about it, I guess.
That is true. So, right, by quality of protein, they're talking about how closely the protein matches our own amino acid kind of ratios. So the highest quality protein, cannibalism, that's the way to do it. But second to cannibalism, then, you know, we can move down kind of the evolutionary tree. But the problem with that quote-unquote high-quality protein is that it acts as a proteogenic stimulus. It's like our body starts, like, accelerating growth. And when we're at adult stature, the growth that's being accelerated is tumor formation and expansion and spread.
So don't take protein supplements. Don't do this whey protein.
Protein
shakes in the morning.
We should get all our macronutrients, our protein, our fats, our carbohydrates from whole food sources.
Yeah.
So eating protein powder is like, getting your carbohydrates by eating table sugar, or getting your fats by eating oil. It's like, wait a second, you're losing out on all that other nutrition in those foods.
What about creatine? People supplement that a lot. Is that?
Yeah, so I recommend 3 grams, which is like a teaspoon, creatine, daily for elderly men and women who are engaging in rigorous resistance exercise, which I encourage everyone to do. It does not work if you're actually not doing strength training, but it does enable you to do more than you otherwise would, and then you get the benefits from it.
When you just clarify what elderly means.
Oh. So
older than me.
Right. Older than 65.
Oh. Elderly. All right, you're obviously under 65. So also people will look at dairy as a source of protein. Dairy shortens lifespan?
Sure, absolutely. So milk consumption, milk drinkers live shorter lives on average compared to non-milk drinkers, according to the meta-analysis of all the biggest, largest, best done studies to date. Including the Harvard analysis. And so,
Is there a certain age where you stop drinking? I mean, we have elderly people, we have grandchildren. Should we say don't drink milk?
Milk is for babies.
Just for babies.
Right. And
babies you define as under 45 or
weaning.
Welcome to Rancho Mirage.
That's right. That's funny. Yeah.
So just babies after
Perfect food for baby calves, but for people, right?
Yeah.
Then human breast milk as long as possible, and then
as long as possible.
we should be breastfeeding as long as possible.
All right. Take notes. And when you talk about dairy, then are you also including yogurt and fermented?
Fermented dairy is less harmful. So we think
Less harmful or good?
Less harmful. Well, I mean, as in anything, when you talk about whether food is good or bad, it's always compared to what?
Okay.
Right? Food is a zero-sum game. Everything we put in our mouth has an opportunity cost. The lost opportunity to put something even healthier in our mouth, right?
Right.
And so, are eggs healthy? Well, compared to breakfast sausage, absolutely. Compared to oatmeal, not even close. Is fish healthy? Tuna fish sandwich is better than a bologna sandwich, but compared to a hummus wrap, not even close, right? And so, yogurt. So compared to liquids, compared to milk, yogurt is better. Because what we're doing is we're fermenting away some of those branched-chain amino acids. We're fermenting away some of that galactose. And some of the microRNAs, which have a.
But then it's not as good as, say, soy milk.
Oh, or soy yogurt. Right, exactly.
Soy would be better.
So soy would absolutely be better.
Okay, so that's what so now, people come into my office and I say, tell me about your diet. I say, Doc, I've got a really good diet. And they spend some time talking about, I don't eat meat, I'm gluten-free, I'm low-fat. You spend a lot of time talking about what they don't eat. It's kind of interesting, it goes for a while before people actually say what they do eat. But people, right? Because that's kind of the way we talk. It's like we define vegan by being what I don't eat, not what I eat.
Right. As physicians, these labels like vegetarian and vegan is really unhelpful, right? It's like, wait a second, do you actually eat vegetables?
What are you eating, right?
Right. Yeah. No. So it's particularly like you have these college vegans living off of French fries and beer, which is just not a health-promoting diet.
It's plant-based, not really plant-based.
Right. So that's why along comes Professor Emeritus of Biochemistry T. Colin Campbell at Cornell. Came up with this term, whole food plant-based. That's what you actually eat: whole, unprocessed plant foods from fields, not factories. Real food that grows out of the ground. These are our healthiest choices.
You're probably familiar with Dr. Campbell from, if you've watched the documentary Forks Over Knives, as many of you have, I see heads nodding, that's good.
Anyone see the new Netflix documentary, You Are What You Eat? Oh, wasn't that great? Just came out at the beginning of January. Mm-hmm. Super, right? Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Oh, so well done. I would really encourage folks to check it out. It's really one of the best documentaries that have been done. I mean, Forks Over Knives, the content is wonderful, but the production value is just not kind of up to kind of Hollywood snuff. But this new documentary, they must have had a lot of money because it was just gorgeous.
Game Changers was good too.
Oh, it's the same team. So Game Changers, the same people that did, same director, Game Changers, also did this You Are What You Eat.
Same scientific consultant.
Oh, well, yeah. So
Maybe. Or someone
with the science is good. I can say that.
All right. So one diet we hear about being healthy is the Mediterranean diet. And that's heavy in fish, heavy in olive oil. I mean, this is my understanding, right?
This is the Americanized Mediterranean version. So, I mean, the true Mediterranean diet, massive amounts of dark green leafy vegetables, eating lots of nuts, centered around primary protein sources, legumes. I mean, that was, right. So, I mean, any diet that gets you to eat more vegetables is a healthier diet than the standard American diet. And using olive oil instead of the traditional sources of fat, which were kind of butter, tallow, lard, so less saturated fat, fantastic. But even better would, again, be get fat from whole food sources, so walnuts as opposed to walnut oil, for example. Remove all the fiber, remove most of the minerals. You're left with a few fat-soluble nutrients like vitamin E or something, but you just stripped that food of all that nutrition.
How about olive oil?
Well, the problem with olive oil is the whole food is inedible unless you brine it. And what do you brine it with? You brine it in salt. And so actually it has a too high sodium content. So the whole food, where you get your olive fat, has a too high sodium content. So
the concern with olive oil is sodium?
No, the concern with olives is sodium.
Right.
But the concern with olive oil is it's just the caloric density, right? So 120 calories per tablespoon, right? It is the most calorically dense food on the planet. Even butter has a little water in it, so it doesn't have that many calories. And so, I mean, so how can we get more nutrition for 120 calories? by eating, real food.
The opportunity cost here again.
Yeah.
And talk about.
But in terms of if you're going to use an oil, extra virgin is the oil to use because it actually has some nutrients in it. You can see it. Those phytonutrients that make it green, that give it that bitter taste, that give it that smell, those you actually have phytonutrients. There's still something left, as opposed some of the refined oils like safflower oil, cottonseed oil, where the kind of deodorization process and they really strip it of all nutrition, and so it's just almost pure calories.
And be careful, coconut oil.
Oh, well, coconut oil is one of the rare plant sources of saturated fat. Most saturated fat comes from kind of meat and dairy, but there's these tropical oils found in a lot of junk food: coconut oil, palm kernel oil, palm oil. Found a lot of vegan junk food, and we really should try to decrease our intake because it increases our levels of LDL, so-called bad cholesterol, which is a leading risk factor for our number one killer, heart disease. If only we had a good cardiologist we could go to.
So, coconut oil. So with these substitute, these like Impossible beef, these, what do you think about these? Is it just a way to kind of wean us off the real stuff?
Oh, I love it. Yeah, no, that's how I view it.
Really?
So these are fantastic transition foods, right? Stepping stone foods. So, not everyone can go all kale and quinoa overnight, right? And so to have the same kind of tastes and textures and kind of mouthfeel as some of our childhood favorites helps people wean away. So are they healthier? Absolutely. Are they healthy? No. Healthier? Absolutely. But I don't want people to stall there. I want people to continue to move towards less processed, whole plant foods. So, typically about the same amount of sodium, but they tend to have less saturated fat, actually have a little fiber. So definitely better, but not ideal.
Okay. And then a couple more things that people like to eat, don't always think of as being healthy right now. Eggs.
Yeah.
I get that question all the time.
Sure.
Doctor, should I eat eggs?
Yes.
Or I get rid of the yolks.
You can do whatever you want. It's your body, your choice. You want to go smoke cigarettes? You want to go bungee jump? You want to go disconnect the smoke alarms? You want to go not wear your seatbelt? Do whatever you do. You.
It's hard for me to say that at work.
Right.
but I'll try.
But as physicians, right, we want to educate people about the predictable consequences of their actions, right? And then it's up to them. So according to the NIH AARP study, the largest in-depth study of diet and health in human history found that just swapping 3% of calories from animal protein to plant protein associated with a 10% decreased risk of all-cause mortality, of dying from all causes put together. And the worst animal protein out of all of them was eggs. Swapping out 3% of plant protein, 3% of egg protein for plant protein associated with 20% decreased risk of all-cause mortality. 21% for men, I think 24% for women, or vice versa. So now in the Harvard cohorts, it was actually processed meat. Eggs were second worst. Processed meat was the worst, but these are all. But swapping out any plant protein for any animal protein, fish, dairy, eggs, anything across the board, significantly decreased risk of premature death eating plant protein instead of animal protein.
So you just got about the eggs. And wait till you hear what he has to say about chicken. Go ahead. Tell him the good news.
Oh no! So again, but it's better to have the chicken than it is to have the egg.
Fattening.
So in the Harvard cohorts, the Harvard Health Professional Study and the Harvard Nurses Health Study found that swapping out 3% of chicken for plant protein improved your decreased all-cause mortality by 6%. And so again, that's it's just like some plant foods are better than others, like, berries are better than bananas. Well, there's some, chicken is better than pepperoni or something.
Right. But actually, in some ways it's not, because in one of your books you say that chicken is the most fattening food.
Well, so chicken used to be, 100 years ago, according to the USDA, only 2% of calories from fat. 2%. Now it's over 20% calories from fat. In fact, there's more fat calories than there are protein calories in chicken. We've just so selectively
10 times more fat.
You're genetically manipulated them to be, to have such high fat content.
Because they don't live long, right?
Well, yeah, they don't live long. They can't live long because they're so bred to be so top heavy. They eventually just can't move anymore.
I think it's like, what, 6 weeks or something like that?
7 weeks. Yeah,
7 weeks from hatch to like.
Yeah. So but you have to because otherwise they can't support their own bodies.
Yeah.
They just die of heart attacks.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So you're telling us what not to eat, and then the next question is, well, what should we be eating?
If only there was some kind of daily dozen checklist of all the healthy foods that people can. So the first half of How Not to Die, the first book in the series, is just 15 chapters, each of the 15 leading causes of death, talking about their old diet, maybe in preventing, arresting, reversing each of our top 15 killers. But I didn't want it to just be a reference book. I wanted it to be a practical, day-to-day grocery store kind of style guide where you can put this into practice. And so then that was the second half, centers around this daily dozen, Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen, available free on iPhone, Android. There's an app for it. And it's just like, so it's like I want people to eat berries every day, the healthiest fruits, dark green leafy vegetables, the healthiest vegetables, tablespoon of ground flaxseed, quarter teaspoon of turmeric, the best beverages, how much exercise, etc. Just trying to inspire people to aspire to include some of the healthiest of healthy foods into their daily diet. And so that's really what I try to say.
It's a great app. It's like 24 boxes, right? It's split into 12 categories. And it's really explanatory because you explain what a serving is, which is like a big question. Like when you say a serving, what's a serving? And a serving of nuts is different from a serving of flaxseed. Flaxseed's a tablespoon, nuts is a handful. And so you go through the day and you try to check off these 24 boxes. It includes some for exercise. I really recommend it because it is about what you should be eating and not what you should be avoiding.
Yeah, and the hope is that by the end of the day, boy, if you've stuffed yourself with all this
in your mouth,
nutrition,
you can't chew anymore.
You're just naturally crowd out some of the less healthy options. Yeah.
Yeah. So and you have little tweaks on it too. You have tweaks
for
if you want to lose weight loss.
Yeah, you can switch over to weight loss mode, and then there's the 21 tweaks talking about all the ways to accelerate the loss of body fat.
You want to just touch on some of those?
Yeah, so for example, 2 teaspoons of vinegar with every meal significantly decreases body weight, helps control blood sugars. Never do vinegar straight. You can burn your esophagus. You can sprinkle it onto a salad or add it to tea, there's a whole bunch of ways you can do it. But don't eat after 7 p.m. Early time restricted feeding, preloading. Oh, negative calorie preloading. Yeah, it's so cool. So eating an apple before a meal decreases one's intake of that meal by 200 calories. And so an apple has like 50 calories. Yeah. And so by eating an apple before a meal, you just sucked 150 calories out. So apple had negative 150 calories. Right? So eating an apple or pear before a meal significantly accelerates weight loss. People have been randomized to that and shown in interventional trials. To lose weight. And so, I'm sure our patients come to us thinking that we're going to take away their favorite foods. And then when we turn around and say, no, I want you to add to your diet. I want you to add an apple every day, before each meal. I want you to add, I want you to be drinking this much water. I want you to be, and then they're like, oh, and then you come back and, okay, now we're going to add something else to your diet. And we're just kind of slowly.
Who doesn't like strawberries?
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, now, when you look at you were talking about maybe supplement with creatine if you want to, if you're elderly, over 65, if you're late middle age.
Over the hill. We're talking way over the hill.
Are there other supplements that we should be?
So I talk about all the supplements that are purported to have, so I talk about resveratrol, the NAD supplements, all down the list. There's actually very few that pass muster. So, you want to make sure you have enough vitamin D if you're getting inadequate sun exposure. No excuse in this city. But look, if you're inside all day, it doesn't matter where you live, you're not going to.
You should just take it, or you should get your levels checked and then.
So you can get your levels checked and just make sure that you're getting adequate sunshine exposure. And obviously, there's different special populations like pregnant women, alcoholics, etc. that need specific additional nutrients. But in general, we should try to get our nutrition from the produce aisle rather than the supplement aisle.
And one friend had asked me, he said, well, if you're following this diet and it's so good for you, why is it that mandate that you have to take a B12 supplement? Shouldn't there be a diet? But isn't it true now that everybody over 50
Oh, yeah.
should be taking B12.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So there are two vitamins not made by plants. One is vitamin D, only made by animals, such as yourself when you walk outside. It's a sunshine vitamin. And then but vitamin B12, not made by animals, not made by plants, not made by animals either. It's made by little microbes that blanket the earth. So we used to get all the B12 we needed drinking out of a mountain stream or well water or something, but now we chlorinate the water supply to kill off any bacteria. So we don't get a lot of B12 in our water anymore. We don't get a lot of cholera either. That's a good thing. That we live in a nice sanitary world. So our fellow great apes get all the B12 they need eating bugs, dirt, and feces. I prefer supplements. And so, 2,000 micrograms once a week, get all the B12 you need. And so, yeah, and according to the National Academies of Medicine, this is the most prestigious medical institution in the country. Everyone at age 50, regardless of what you eat, has to have a B12 supplement starting at age 50 every day, or eat B12 fortified foods every day, just because our ability to extract B12 from food declines with age.
You take one big dose once a week or something?
So I take it once a week, although after age 65, I encourage every day, 1,000 micrograms once a day of cyanical balm, which is the most shelf-stable form.
You sound the alarm on the supplement industry, though, in a lot of your books. There's some issues with that.
Oh, it's just shady, thanks to the DSHEA Act, the deregulation of the supplement industry. So actually, the supplement industry used to be regulated like the over-the-counter medicine industry. So if you want to sell like Benadryl or one of these over-the-counter medications,
Yeah.
right? What you say on the label, it says this has 5 milligrams of whatever
Ingredients, yeah.
what's in the pill actually has to be what's on the label. What a concept, right? And it can't have stuff that's not listed on the label. Absolutely, but that was taken away.
So now they don't
thanks to pressure from the supplement industry. So now, now it's up to the industry to self-regulate. And so when you actually take supplements off the shelves, and we're not talking like dark little corners of the internet, but we can go to GNC and Walmart and just CVS, all the standard places people buy supplements. Take it off the shelves and you test to see if they actually have any of the active ingredient. You hope that there's just nothing there. You hope that they're just selling you rice flour or something innocuous. Oftentimes, there's illicit drugs, there's all sorts of crazy things that can be dangerous. So it's just this wild west out there. However, there are ways.
And how frequent is that? Is that like
it depends. It depends what kind of supplement.
Yeah.
Some are just, so particularly weight loss supplements and like sexual potency supplements, those are infamous for containing harmful substances beyond just being kind of, not, containing powdered houseplants. That was what was found in a big Inspector General investigation. That's like the cheapest thing they could find. It's like, hey, take that. But, all right.
But it's over 50%.
Oh, it can be. But there's good news. So there are third-party certification programs. Like USP, so you can get a USP certified. Now that's not certifying that it's good for you or that it does anything for you, but just certifying that what's in the pill is actually what's on the label. And so you can get, USP certified vitamin D.
So that's what you look for.
So yeah, you would look for it just because, look, you're paying all this money and you want to actually get what's in the thing, right?
Yeah.
Or we could actually, start regulating the industry again and, but good luck with that.
Let's talk about like different body parts that we want to preserve. So let's start with skin. What should we do to protect our skin?
Oh, well, number one thing is protection from the sun. 90% of visible skin aging is due to sun exposure. So the most important thing we can do is wear daily sunscreen.
Daily, not just
daily sunscreen, all times of the year, period, across the board. And we can avoid direct. So unfortunately, the sunscreens, they're really good at UVA and UVB these days, but now we're finding that like infrared, visible light, which isn't blocked by sunscreen, also contributes to skin aging, although it does not contribute to skin cancer. So we can still protect ourselves from skin cancer, but still we can get some aging from sun's rays. And so avoiding direct sun between kind of 10 and 4, so shade, physical coverings like hats, that kind of thing, useful. And then there are things that can reverse the effects of sun damage. I talked about this morning, topical nicotinamide or niacinamide, topical vitamin C treatments, which you can all make yourself. I have kind of DIY recipes in the book. Okay. Cocoa powder. Yeah. So a tablespoon a day of cocoa powder within 6 weeks significantly improves skin thickness, hydration, and density. So, how
much cocoa powder?
Less than a tablespoon a day. So it's like 2.5 teaspoons a day of natural cocoa powder. Compared to Dutch cocoa, which was the control group. So everyone was given cocoa, but half were given alkalized cocoa, which many of the beneficial flavonoids are removed. And then within 12 weeks, significant improvement in wrinkle depth, just by making your life a little more chocolatey, by adding some cocoa powder to your smoothie or something, yeah.
Okay. How about vision? What should we do to
protect dark green leafy vegetables for our vision. So leading cause of blindness in this country is something called age-related macular degeneration. And it's this deterioration of the macular pigment, this yellow pigment in the back of your eyes that protects your sensitive retina from the blue rays in the sun. And where's that macular pigment come from? It comes from dark green leafy vegetables. The lutein is zeaxanthin, and so the current recommended standard of care for both prevention and early treatment of age-related macular degeneration is a diet rich in dark green leafy vegetables, recommending at least 2 servings a day. And so, greens at every lunch, at every supper, and bonus points for sneaking them into breakfast too, like a green smoothie or something. In fact, blending actually triples the bioavailability of something like spinach for these vision-protecting nutrients. If there was one thing we could do,
dark green leafy.
Dark green leafy vegetables. Popeye was right.
And you pointed out that cataracts actually have some protective effect.
So the yellowing of our cornea, of our cataract, of the kind of layer, the top layer of our eye, that's actually our bodies trying to protect our retinas. From the high energy blue rays of the sun. And so when you remove those cataracts in cataract surgery, you actually make yourself more at risk, you increase your risk of going blind from age-related macular degeneration. You can decrease your risk of cataracts by eating antioxidant-rich foods. Those eating strictly plant-based diets have less than half the risk of getting cataracts than those who don't.
So if you get cataract surgery, you really should be...
It's even more important to eat your greens.
Eat your greens and wear sunglasses.
And wear sunglasses, yeah, great.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Teeth? Anything special about teeth, dental care?
Absolutely. Got a whole chapter on all these, of course. And so avoiding sugar, right, which is the necessary cause for dental cavities. In terms of periodontal disease, which is the tooth supporting structure, so you could have perfect teeth, but if they fall out of your mouth, who cares if there's cavities in them or not? So that's why periodontal health is critically important. And I talk about how to support gum health, and it's basically eating healthy foods like processed tomato products, like tomato paste, tomato sauce. You can randomize people to eat tomato paste or not, have significantly improved gum health. Remarkable.
You get all these really interesting facts I never thought about. So how many people, so if floss before brush before floss, how many people brush before floss? And how many people floss before brush?
That's so interesting. It's about 50-50.
Tell us what's the data?
Yeah, no. So what's really interesting, so there's been 2 randomized controlled trials. And what's interesting...
Who does these trials?
What's interesting is obviously no one's going to pay for them. So they so these researchers are actually using their own money to run these trials because they're curious. And I just think that's fantastic. Good for them. And often, people are volunteering for these studies, so they're relatively cheap studies to run.
What did they find out?
Okay, what's interesting is that you could argue it both ways. Theoretically, you could argue that it would be better to floss before, you gotta put it to the test. And they did 2 randomized controlled trials, and they both unanimously showed we should floss first. Floss first, then brush.
All right. So.
Science. It's science.
Put it to the test. How about bones? Let's go with bones.
Oh, bones.
This is fun. It's like try to name a body part that he doesn't have data for. I mean, I'm going to go with left kidney next, but
All right.
go bones.
So the most important thing to learn about, to recognize about bones is that 85% of age-related bone fracture risk has nothing to do with bone mineral density. That has just been drilled into us by Big Pharma and a billion-dollar density screening industry. The single most important thing is fall risk. It's the decline in lower muscle strength and balance that leads to most falls as we get older. So use it or lose it. There have been 7 randomized controlled trials showing that lower limb strengthening exercises and balance training can significantly reduce bone fracture risk, cutting fracture risk about in half. And that's just during the study. This famous study found that within 5 years after the 1-year study ended, those who had previously been randomized to strength training and balance, 74% fewer fractures in the subsequent 5 years. That's way better than these anti-osteoporosis drugs like Fosamax that can actually cause fractures, atypical femoral fractures.
That was the shocking thing. You can increase bone density but get more fractures.
Oh God, it's really tragic. So but I have a series of videos talking about the pros and cons of kind of pharmacological approaches versus these kind of, and of course, falls risk is not just about strength training. It's making sure you don't have any slippery, throw rugs, lighting,
Small animals are actually
and getting well, you don't have to worry so much about slipping on the ice out here, but yeah, there's all sorts of things you can do to prevent falls.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next thing is prostate. What are we eating? We're eating cranberries.
So
tomatoes.
Cranberries. Spoiler alert! Hello, it doesn't even give me a chance. So an eighth of a teaspoon of powdered cranberries, right, which would cost about 2 cents a day, significantly decreases risk.
An eighth of a teaspoon.
Eighth of a teaspoon.
So you're doing like a little line of cranberry powder.
No, you're not snorting it. You're not snorting it.
Yeah.
Eating it.
Okay.
Sprinkle it on your oatmeal or just whatever. Okay. Significantly decreases urinary symptoms from what's called benign prostatic hypertrophy, which is BPH, or enlarged prostate. Significantly decreases with just an eighth of a teaspoon of cranberry powder. No downside, a little tangy, but no side effects, unlike some of the drugs like tamsulosin that's being used.
Good for Jack? Is it good for Jill?
Oh, well, it is so you have to do a quarter teaspoon. Women have to do a quarter teaspoon. But it significantly decreases overactive bladder syndrome. About 1 in 3 older men and women actually suffer from overactive bladder syndrome. And a quarter teaspoon of cranberries is nearly 4 times as effective as the leading drugs, which are multi-billion-dollar industry, these bladder-relaxing drugs, which have all sorts of, side effects,
dizziness,
urinary
dry mouth,
retention, dry mouth, constipation, etc. On down the risk, whereas, cranberries,
And
easy squeezy.
you say it's more efficacious than.
And more, nearly 4 times, right. So the drugs only reduce bathroom breaks by about half a pee a day compared to placebo.
When I hear that, you're going through these different vegetables, and I recommend it, and a lot of my patients come and say, Dr. Lay, remember, I'm diabetic. I can't eat that much fruit. It's all sugar. It's another thing I can't do, but.
Yeah. So you randomize diabetics to increase their fruit intake or decrease their fruit intake. Who does better in terms of long-term blood sugar control? Those increasing their fruit intake, because fruit comes prepackaged with polyphenols and dietary fibers, slow the absorption of sugar through the intestinal wall.
If they do better, their hemoglobin A1C actually comes
Right, so
down.
long-term blood sugar control improves by eating more fruit.
So
fruit, any fruit. Well, berries are the best. Berries are the best because they're highest in polyphenols.
So eating more fruit lowers your blood sugar.
Lowers your blood sugar.
Doesn't drive it up.
Okay, improves your insulin sensitivity, on down the list.
And similarly, people who are a little chubby will worry about eating nuts because say it's so many calories and I'm trying to lose weight.
Well, again, what are you going to do with it? So we don't want empty calories, right? But these are calories that are packed with lots of nutrition. And what's nice about the longevity benefits of nuts is that it maxes out at a palmful about 3 times a week. So that's actually not a lot of calories. But
Don't eat more than that then.
Oh, no, you can eat as many nuts as you want. But in terms of the longevity benefits, that's all you need to get the maximum longevity, which appears to be about 2 years. Those who eat nuts regularly live on average, after controlling for other factors, 2 years longer. There's only 2 foods ever been associated with literally years, plural, more lifespan than starch green leafy vegetables and nuts.
Let's just give them one more downer before people leave.
Okay.
Let's talk about alcohol.
Okay. Speaking of downer, very nice.
God. You're gonna need a drink after this, let me tell you. All right.
Yeah. Look, it's a plant. What's the problem, right?
It's fruit juice.
Fruit juice, right. Yeah. Well, so we've always known that, binge drinking during pregnancy, etc., was a bad idea. But there's been this thought that there's benefit to so-called moderate drinking, and that the people that lived the longest were not the teetotalers at 0, but actually those that drank a few drinks a week. This was the famous J-curve, where instead of being just alcohol versus death like this, there was this little uptick such that the lowest point of the curve, the lowest rate of death, was actually those that had this moderate alcohol. So we've always known that alcohol was a carcinogen, increases risk. Even light drinking, meaning less than a drink a day, increases risk of breast cancer, leading cancer killer among women, and increases the risk of about 25 different kinds of cancer. But the reason that there haven't been more public health initiatives to reduce alcohol intake is because, look, cancer is just killer number 2. Killer number 1 is heart disease, and there was this thought that, well, moderate drinking might decrease the risk of heart disease, and so we don't want to, impinge on people's health. But that was all old data, and unfortunately, what was happening was the systematic misclassification of former drinkers as if they were lifelong abstainers. So what we're running into is this statistical artifact called the sick quitter effect, meaning that the reason people were non-drinkers were because they got sick and stopped. So that's the same reason why some studies have found that those who quit smoking actually live shorter lives than those who continue to smoke. How is that even possible? Well, why did they quit smoking?
Because they're dying.
They quit smoking because they're dying, because something horrible happened to them. So like with liver cirrhosis, non-drinkers have higher rates of liver cirrhosis than people who drink. How is that possible? Why are they non-drinkers? Because they got liver cirrhosis. So it's reverse causation, right? And so if you control for that, if you go back through all the studies, and you separate out lifelong abstainers from kind of recent non-drinkers, then that J-curve vanishes. And you have a straight up linear increase in the risk of disease and death with more and more alcohol, with no apparent protection at low levels of consumption. So that's why the World Health Organization, the World Heart Federation, the Global Burden of Disease Study, which is the largest systemic analysis of risk factors in human history, all say the only safe level of drinking actually is 0.
Yeah, and it's true for atrial fibrillation, especially. Number 1 trigger of atrial fibrillation is a drink, and it starts with the very first sip. Bad news.
Johnny Walker is no substitute for actual walking.
Which people will be doing in a few minutes, I think. Now, you had How Not to Die, then you had How Not to Die, and then you researched this book, How Not to Age. In the course of researching this, anything new that you're doing in your...
Tons. Oh my God, look, I learn as much as anybody else reading than I do writing this book. In fact, there's entire fields of science, like the microRNAs, that weren't even discovered when we went to medical school, right? Challenging the central dogma of biology. I mean, just mind-blowing
don't give
stuff.
Us science, we got a minute left. Tell us, what are you eating now that you didn't used to eat?
Okay, so I'm growing oyster mushrooms. You can do, just like you can make sprouts in your own house, you can grow your own mushrooms. Why? Because these 2 longevity vitamins, ergothioneine and spermidine, basically only found in the fungal kingdom, so you have to have mushrooms in your daily diet. You can grow your own, super cheap, delicious.
More mushrooms.
Tempeh, which is a fungal fermented whole soy food. Number 1 source of spermidine per serving. Strawberries. is one of the only sources of fisetin, which is a senolytic, meaning it helps destroy these so-called zombie cells spewing inflammation throughout our body. And basically, it's only found in strawberries. So I encourage people to eat freeze-dried, dried, or frozen or fresh strawberries every day. Cardamom. Cardamom, the queen of spices. That's something I had to, so I actually mix it with my cocoa butter.
Wheat germ.
Wheat germ. Oh, that's the most concentrated source of the longevity vitamin spermidine on an ounce per ounce basis. Sprinkle it. So I mix my ground flax seeds with wheat germ 1-to-1. Sprinkle that on all the foods I eat. I could go on. Good stuff.
That's it, folks. That's great.